Before you give up on her, learn this Stoic power move. Stoic Bloom. She pulls away, goes silent, and suddenly, your mind fills in the blanks with the worst-case scenarios. But what if your biggest fear isn't real? Just rehearsed in panic. Most men surrender too soon, not because she left, but because they never learned to stand still. In this series, you'll learn what separates the man she forgets from the one she can't stop thinking about. Today, we start where most men quit, that moment of quiet confusion. Because silence isn't rejection, it's an invitation to evolve. Part 1, the illusion of defeat. Why men give up too soon. She stops replying. She seems distant. You sense the energy shift, and just like that, the spiral begins. Your mind jumps to conclusions. She's seeing someone else. She doesn't care. I must have messed it up. But here's the Stoic truth. You haven't been rejected. You've been invited to stand still and observe. Most men don't fail because she leaves. They fail because they abandon themselves the moment her energy shifts. It is not events that disturb people. It is their judgments about them. Epictetus. What you're feeling isn't the pain of loss. It's the pain of misinterpretation. Because not every pullback is a goodbye. Sometimes it's a test, a space, a recalibration. She may be unsure, she may be processing. She may just want to feel your absence to measure its weight. But if you fill the gap with panic, with over-texting, over-explaining, over-trying, you rob her of the chance to actually miss you. And worse, you forfeit your frame. The Stoic man doesn't flinch. He doesn't chase confusion. He anchors himself in stillness because he knows the moment you act out of fear is the moment she sees you differently. So instead of assuming the worst, assume your stance. Not cold, not reactive, not desperate, just aware, just grounded, just you. Ever caught yourself assuming the worst too quickly? Drop your reflection below. We grow stronger when we share with clarity, not chaos. Like this, if you've learned to pause before you panic. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, where we turn heartbreak into homework and silence into strategy. Stoic Bloom, because before you give up on her, you must stop giving up on yourself. Part 2, why she's pulling away isn't what you think. It's easy to assume the worst. She texts less, calls slow down, she's not as affectionate, and you feel her slipping through your fingers. Most men immediately assume she's losing interest. There's someone else. I need to do something now. But here's the thing, not every retreat is rejection. Sometimes it's resistance. Sometimes it's rhythm, and sometimes it's regulation. A woman pulling away doesn't always mean she's gone. In fact, what she often wants is space to feel you without you. Because if you're constantly available, always texting first, always affirming, always chasing, then where's the tension? Where's the polarity? Where's the mystery? Hasten slowly and without losing heart. One must not pursue everything at once. Seneca, when you flood her senses, you give her no room to wonder. And when there's no wondering, there's no longing. Her pullback might simply be her way of resetting the balance, of asking, can I feel your presence, even when you're not trying to be seen? The insecure man interprets her withdrawal as a challenge to his worth, but the Stoic man sees it as an opportunity to reinforce his stillness. He doesn't ask, what did I do wrong? He reflects, what does this space reveal about me and about her? If you chase, she confirms her suspicion. You were never the mountain, just the mist around it. But if you remain grounded, calm, curious, she starts to wonder, Why isn't he chasing me like others do? And that question, that's the beginning of her emotional return. Part 3, the silent test of masculine control. She hasn't said it, no text, no call, no "I need space," but you feel it. The energy shift, the emotional distance, the quiet void where connection used to be. And now you're left with the most dangerous question a man can ask himself. What do I do now? Here's the uncomfortable truth. This isn't a coincidence. This is a test. And it's silent by design. Because how a man responds to emotional ambiguity reveals everything about his internal order, or chaos. No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus, she's not consciously trying to manipulate you. She's subconsciously observing. Can you hold your center when you're no longer being fed affection? Will you spiral? Or will you stay still? Because masculine control isn't about controlling her. It's about containing yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, your need for certainty. She wants to feel that your presence doesn't rely on her approval, that your composure doesn't fracture under pressure, that you're a man who leads his own emotional climate, not someone who panics when clouds appear. Most men fail this test in the first 48 hours. They reach out, they ask, "Is everything okay?" They try to fix something that isn't broken. They react to shadows like they're fires. But you breathe, you watch, you wait. Because this test isn't pass or fail, it's reveal. And the man who passes is the man who doesn't even flinch. Ever felt tested by silence and passed it with stillness? Share your moment of control below. Like this if you've learned to let time do the talking. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, where we turn emotional trials into triumphs of clarity. Stoic Bloom, because if silence shakes you, you are never rooted in strength. Part 4, the power of distance over words. When she starts to pull away, the first instinct most men have is to talk, to explain, to clarify, to fix. But here's the paradox. Sometimes saying less is exactly what speaks more. Because when emotion rises and clarity vanishes, distance becomes the only language she can truly feel. Words often fall flat when energy shifts. And if she's retreating emotionally, no paragraph, no matter how heartfelt, will land. In fact, it might push her further away. But distance lingers. Distance invites curiosity. Distance replaces pressure with space. And space allows truth to surface, both hers and yours. The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength. Marcus Aurelius, physical or emotional distance is not a punishment. It's not a cold shoulder. It's the act of preserving your center while allowing her to re-enter her own. Because in the absence of constant attention, she's left with the one thing that can't be argued with, her own thoughts. She'll start to wonder, why hasn't he called? Why isn't he reacting? Did I overestimate his attachment? And those questions are far more powerful than any reassurance you could have sent. When you distance yourself with intention, you shift from being predictable to being present in a way she can feel even when you're not there. And that's where influence is born, not in what you say, but in what you no longer have to. So don't underestimate the power of quiet withdrawal. It isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It tells her what words never could. I respect myself enough not to fight for a connection that's fading, but strong enough to hold space for its return on my terms. Part 5, what to do instead of chasing. She's distant, cold, pulling away without explanation, and the temptation rises to reach out, to check in, to do something, because surely silence must be filled, right? Wrong. In moments like this, what you do next doesn't just reveal your emotional intelligence, it defines your masculine edge. Most men chase, they send "just wanted to check on you" texts. They ask questions she hasn't invited. They overinvest in someone who's already stepping back. But a stoic man knows chasing isn't noble, it's noisy. Don't explain yourself to everyone. Live in such a way that your actions explain who you are. Epictetus. So what do you do instead? You redirect, not your affection, your attention. You work out, you journal, you reflect on your boundaries, you reconnect with your vision, your mission, your center. You become so rooted in your own presence that her absence no longer disturbs the soil beneath your feet. When you stop chasing, you do two powerful things. One, you preserve your self-respect. You give her the dignity of missing you. Because a man who chases a fading connection is trying to resurrect a version of her that no longer exists. But a man who refocuses becomes someone new entirely. Someone she won't be able to ignore when she's finally ready to feel. Ever stopped chasing and found peace instead of pain? Drop your story below. We call that stoic growth. Like this, if you've learned that not moving toward her is sometimes the bravest move you can make. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, where every step away from desperation is a step closer to dignity. Stoic Bloom, because holding your ground always looks better than losing yourself. Part 6, when she comes back, hold the frame. It happens quietly, maybe a message, maybe a like on your story. Maybe she sends a reel that only the two of you would understand. She doesn't say, "I miss you." She doesn't apologize. She just reappears. And this is where most men fail. Because the moment she returns, the average man throws away all the strength he built in silence. He jumps back in. He explains himself. He overengages. And he loses the frame. Self-control is strength. Right thought is mastery. Calmness is power. James Allen, a Stoic-compatible modern thinker. To hold the frame means this. You don't shift your emotional grounding to match her energy. You stay exactly where you were when she left. Centered, calm, focused. She must enter your world again. You don't abandon the structure of your mindset to accommodate her feelings. This doesn't mean being cold, it means being clear. Because if she senses that your strength was only an act, that your peace was just performative, she'll lose respect for you the moment she sees you bend. But if you maintain your path, the gym, the business, the goals, the calm tone, the slow replies, she begins to see that you didn't build your frame to win her back. You built it because that's who you are now, and ironically, that's when she starts to invest again. Not because you chased her, but because she realizes she has to qualify to you now. And that shift from emotional pursuer to inner builder is what makes you unforgettable. You're no longer reacting to her energy, you're radiating your own. Part 7, if she never returns, a blessing in disguise. You waited, you held your ground, you didn't chase, you focused inward, and still, she never came back. No text, no closure, no explanation, just silence. It stings. But here's what most men don't realize until much later. Her absence didn't break you. It built you. The man who needs her return to validate his worth is still lost in the illusion that her presence defines his power. But the man who finds peace in her absence, that man is becoming invincible. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Epictetus. Her not coming back is not your failure, it's your filter. It filtered out anything superficial, unreciprocated, or emotionally inconsistent. And in that space, You found something more honest, more powerful, yourself. Because the truth is, if she never returns, it wasn't meant to be. And if it was meant to be, she would have met you halfway. This isn't bitterness, it's clarity. You didn't lose her, you lost the illusion of needing someone who couldn't see your full value. So smile, not because you won, but because you learned how to walk away with dignity instead of dragging pieces of yourself behind. Ever realize that not getting her back was the best thing that ever happened to you? Share your stoic breakthrough below, like this, if you've stopped grieving her return and started celebrating your evolution. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, where absence is not a punishment, but a path to presence. Stoic Bloom, because the people who walk away are just as important as the ones who stay. Part 8. Why silence is your greatest power. Silence. To some, it feels like doing nothing. To others, it's mistaken for weakness. But to the man who understands his value, silence is the loudest thing he can say. In relationships, most people associate power with reaction, with proving a point, with winning the argument. But true power, the kind that doesn't fade when attention does, is rooted in your ability to remain unshaken. Be silent as to services you have rendered, but speak of favors you have received. Seneca, silence isn't an avoidance, it's alignment. It tells her, I don't need to chase clarity, I am clarity. I don't need to fill the space, you'll feel me in the space I leave. Because when you go silent, you give her something rare in today's world. The weight of your absence. Most men talk themselves out of attraction. They over-explain, over-pursue, over-correct, and in doing so, they dilute their presence. But the man who goes silent doesn't disappear. He becomes a mystery, and mystery breeds value. It causes her to pause, to reflect, to ask questions she wouldn't if you were still feeding her emotional attention. Is he gone for good? Did I push him too far? Was he more grounded than I realized? And that's where the power begins. Not because you manipulated her, but because you mastered yourself. Silence gives her room to hear her own thoughts and realize which of them are still echoing your name. So next time you feel the urge to break the silence just to do something, remember your greatest move is sometimes the one you don't make. Part 9, how she reacts to your disappearance. At first, she doesn't notice, or at least she pretends not to. She goes on with her day, posts selfies, likes random photos, the same highlight reel of independence and freedom. But after a few days, maybe a week, something shifts. Not in you, in her. Because for the first time, you're no longer in the background. No message, no reaction, no, hey, how are you? Just space, quiet, absence, and absence, it starts to itch. At first, she checks your story, then she scrolls through your old messages. Then she wonders, has he moved on? Why isn't he reaching out like he used to? She doesn't say anything yet, but her thoughts are louder than ever. Because here's the truth. When you disappear without drama, you give her the one thing she never expected: consequences. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice. Marcus Aurelius, you didn't ghost her, you honored yourself. You stopped feeding a loop that was draining your power, and in doing so, you created contrast. She begins to compare the you who once reached out versus the you who no longer needs to. And that contrast, it unsettles her. She might get moody, passive-aggressive, randomly emotional. She might even start doing things to catch your attention. Indirectly, of course. But the Stoic man doesn't jump at every breadcrumb. He observes, he holds a line. He knows that disappearance isn't about manipulation, it's about restoration. You didn't vanish to teach her a lesson, you vanished to remember your own. Ever gone quiet and watched her energy slowly return? Share your story below. We all learn from those moments. Like this, if you've learned that your silence says more than your explanations ever could. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, where we don't vanish to hurt, we disappear to heal. Stoic Bloom, because sometimes the boldest move is the calmest exit. Part 10, the moment she starts to feel you're truly gone. At first, your absence was tolerable, maybe even convenient. She thought you'd check in eventually. She assumed the silence was temporary, just another phase. She still believed deep down you were orbiting quietly, waiting for her gravitational pull. But time passed, and nothing came. Not a text, not a reaction, not even an accidental like. And then something clicked, not in her phone, in her heart. It's that moment where she realizes he's not just quiet, he's really gone. Not gone in distance, gone in presence, gone in energy, gone in investment. And suddenly, she starts to panic quietly. She replays conversations, looking for where it went wrong. She compares every guy she meets to the man who no longer calls. She scrolls through old photos, not to relive the past, but to feel closer to what she knows she can't recreate. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. Seneca. And now she craves your energy, not because you withheld it, but because you protected it. And that's what changed everything. You're no longer available on demand. You're no longer soft in uncertainty. You've become a man whose presence was once taken for granted, and now can only be remembered, not reclaimed. And it's in this moment, when she realizes you've truly gone, that her perception of you transforms. Not as the man who vanished, but as the man who evolved beyond needing to explain why. She didn't lose a text thread, she lost access to your peace, your presence, your essence, and that is the kind of loss no one forgets. Part 11. The rule of rarity, value grows in distance. We live in a world of abundance, constant notifications, instant replies, on-demand validation. So when someone disappears, they become rare. And in a world where everything screams for attention, rarity becomes unforgettable. At first, she didn't notice. You were just quiet, maybe cold, maybe disconnected. But as days turned into silence and silence turned into space, something shifted inside her. You were no longer there, so your value began to grow. The things which are rarest are most highly valued. Epictetus, this is the paradox of human desire. We often chase what's available, but we crave what's withdrawn. Wicca, because distance forces presence. She begins to notice your absence not as a lack, but as a symbol of self-respect. You're not replying instantly. You're not reacting emotionally. You're not chasing connection. You're living, grounded, focused, unbothered. And that is powerful, because when a man stops begging to be seen, he begins to be watched. Not out of pity, but out of intrigue. Your absence is doing what no clever message could. It's inviting memory. It's forcing contrast. It's raising your value through scarcity. So no, you don't need to post glow-up pictures. You don't need to fake happiness. You just need to stay consistent in your stillness. That alone will do what words never could. Make her remember you differently. Part 12, why she starts watching you again. At first, she needed space. She wanted time. She said she was figuring things out. So you let go, gracefully, calmly, silently. But now she's watching you again. She doesn't message, she doesn't reach out directly, but she's back in your views. She's lurking your stories. She's liking that one random photo from weeks ago, almost like by accident. Why kidding me? Because silence grows roots in the back of the mind. And when nothing is chasing her anymore, her thoughts begin chasing you. What upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgments about these things. Epictetus, she's not watching you because she wants to return. She's watching you because she's beginning to wonder, what changed? Why hasn't he reached out? Is he actually okay without me? And those questions, they cut deeper than any argument ever could. Because in her story, you were supposed to break, to chase, to prove. But instead, you went quiet, you went inward, you grew. And growth is hard to ignore, especially when it's not performed, but lived. Her watching you now isn't about control, it's about curiosity, the kind that only comes when someone realizes you no longer orbit around their attention. She doesn't want to admit it, but you've become more interesting in your distance than you ever were in your devotion. Not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped trying to be who she needed and became who you needed. And that man, he draws attention without asking for it. He becomes a presence that doesn't need to enter the room to be felt in it. Part 13. The first test. She reaches out subtly. It's been quiet, weeks, maybe months, and suddenly there it is. A message. Simple, short, harmless. Hey, hope you're doing well. Or maybe, I saw something that reminded me of you. Or the classic, just wanted to check in. On the surface, it feels like progress, but under the surface, it's a test. First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Epictetus. Because here's what most men miss. She's not necessarily trying to come back. She's checking the temperature, testing the waters, looking to see if your boundaries are still intact, or if your heart is still wide open and waiting. This is not the moment to get excited. It's the moment to stay steady. Most men respond with emotional flooding. OMG, I missed you too. I was thinking about you. I'm so glad you reached out. And just like that, they undo all the power they've built in silence. But the Stoic man, he pauses. He doesn't ignore. He doesn't chase. He simply responds. Measured, grounded, unmoved. Because her subtle reach isn't about reconnection. It's about reaction. And how you respond to that small message tells her everything about whether you've truly grown or just pretended to. This is not your moment to resume the chase. This is your moment to prove you never needed to. Ever had an ex drop a "hey stranger" out of nowhere? How did you respond? Like a stoic or a simp? Be honest below. Like this, if you've learned that your first reply defines your entire frame. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, where we teach you not just how to respond, but when not to. Stoic Bloom, because not every message needs a memory and not every test needs a reaction. Part 14, the trap. Reacting too soon resets the game. So she reaches out just a little, a soft ping, a hey, a thought of you, and your heart skips because for a second you think she's coming back. But hold on, because what you do in the next few minutes might undo everything you've built. Here's what most men don't realize. Reacting too soon doesn't move things forward. It resets the frame. It signals to her subconscious. This man was waiting. This man still needs closure, attention, her return. And the moment she feels that, the game changes again, and not in your favor. The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength. Marcus Aurelius. You see, her message wasn't the finish line. It was a checkpoint, a probe, a pulse test. And your instant enthusiasm, it doesn't show strength. It shows scarcity, emotional neediness disguised as hope. So what do you do instead? You pause, you take your time, you respond without over-explaining, without over-feeling. You keep your tone grounded, your rhythm slow, your intention clear. You show her not with words, but with presence. I didn't freeze in your absence. I evolved in it. Because when you respond too quickly, you collapse the tension she was just beginning to feel. You return the control, you remove the mystery, you become predictable again. And predictable isn't powerful. Predictable is replaceable. So remember this, not every message deserves momentum, and not every reach out deserves a return to the emotional past. Sometimes the bravest thing a man can do is hold the frame a little longer, long enough for her to realize you didn't pause your life while she figured out hers. You progressed. Part 15, how to keep the power and make her chase. She's reaching out, testing the waters. You've stayed calm, measured, grounded, but now comes the final challenge. How do you keep the power without turning it into a performance? Because here's the truth, the moment you start reacting, proving, pleasing again, you hand it all back. And she won't even need to walk away this time. You'll hand her your strength gift wrapped, and she'll feel it before you even know you gave it. So how do you hold the frame? You maintain the principles that made her come back in the first place. You stay mysterious, not cold, available, but not eager, kind, but not compromising, consistent, but not convenient. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Epictetus. Your power isn't in how well you perform for her now. It's in how little you need her to affirm who you are. Let her work for your energy. Let her earn your softness. Let her show through action, time, and intention that she's not just curious, but committed. Because when a man stands still with clarity, the right woman doesn't run away. She steps forward, slowly, genuinely, without games. And if she doesn't, then what you built wasn't desire, it was dependency. You're not here to teach her a lesson. You're here to live the lesson yourself. Let her feel the difference. Let her see the man who didn't fall apart, but rose into someone she now has to reach for. Part 16. Let her work for it. Don't fall for words. She comes back with words, soft, familiar, wrapped in nostalgia and framed in I miss us. She tells you she's been thinking, that she regrets how things ended, that she still cares. And maybe she even means it. But here's the Stoic truth. Words are not proof. They are just sounds until tested by action. Most men crumble the moment she sounds sincere because they've been starved of affection, and a single emotional breadcrumb feels like a feast. But you've evolved. Don't trust in words. Trust in behavior. A Stoic doesn't quote, he watches. She might say she's changed, that she misses your presence, that she wants something real now. But until you see consistency, effort, initiation, let her talk. And you, keep building. Because the man who jumps back in based on sentiment ends up right where he started, lost in a cycle of temporary emotion and permanent confusion. Let her work. Let her plan the meetup. Let her invest first. Let her prove, not just feel, that she's ready for your world now, not the one she left. You're not being cold. You're being clear. You're not punishing her. You're protecting you. She doesn't need to beg, but she needs to demonstrate. Wasing, because you didn't get here by listening to beautiful words. You got here by living through hard ones. And what you built in silence is far too valuable to trade for a few well-timed phrases. Part 17, when she feels the weight of your silence. It didn't hit her at first. Your silence? She thought it was temporary, a tactic, a reaction, something you'd snap out of. But time passed, and unlike before, you didn't chase, you didn't explain, you didn't return. You disappeared, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. And that's when it started to sink in. Not all at once, not dramatically, but slowly, like a quiet ache that doesn't go away. She begins to feel it in small ways. In the song that used to make her think of you. In the laugh she can't quite enjoy without wondering if you'd have laughed too. In the quiet of the night, when all the noise fades and only memory remains. Silence is the element in which great things fashion themselves together. Thomas Carlyle, echoing Stoic energy. Because now, you're not just gone, you're unavailable, emotionally, energetically, existentially, and that absence isn't neutral, it's heavy. It makes her question what she gave up, what she overlooked, what she assumed would always be there. Your silence has become a mirror, one she can't ignore, one that doesn't reflect who you were, but who she failed to fully see. This isn't revenge, this is revelation. Because when a man stops pleading and starts progressing, he becomes unforgettable. Not because he left, but because he became bigger than the space she left behind. Let her sit with that. Let her feel the weight of your absence and realize it was never about going quiet. It was about finally being heard. Have you ever seen someone realize, too late, that your silence wasn't a punishment, but a boundary? Share below. Like this if you've learned that sometimes the loudest thing you'll ever say is nothing at all. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, where silence isn't passive, it's powerful. Stoic Bloom, because silence isn't what ends things, it's what reveals the truth about what they were. Part 18, searching for you in other men. She doesn't say it, she might not even realize it at first, but now every conversation with someone new carries a quiet echo of you. Not in a dramatic way, but in the way her mind begins to compare without asking permission. He says something and she thinks, that's not how he would have said it. He laughs too loud, he's a bit too eager, a little too mum, or somehow not enough. Because once she felt your presence, your silence, your stillness, your command of space and emotion, she can't unfeel it. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. And when she was with you, she experienced something she couldn't fully describe at the time. Emotional gravity. A calm that didn't beg for attention. A power that didn't shout. A connection that wasn't forced. Now she's seeking that again, without knowing how to name it. Every time she sits across from someone else, there's a part of her scanning. Is he like you? Does he make me feel that grounded? Will I ever have that calm again? And the hardest part, she won't find it in men who are still chasing validation. She won't feel it in guys who rush the conversation. She won't taste it in cheap compliments or performative charm. Because what she's actually looking for isn't you, it's who she was when she was with you. That version of her that felt challenged and calm, desired and respected, seen but never smothered. But you're no longer there, not in proximity and not in availability. And that absence, it grows heavier with every comparison. She'll try to replace it with new stories, new dates, new attention. But at night, when everything settles, it won't be the faces she remembers. It'll be the feeling. And feelings, once awakened by the real thing, don't settle for imitations. Part 19. The ego trap. She can't admit she misses you. She does miss you. Not just the moments, not just the comfort, but you. The presence that didn't flinch when she pulled away. She scrolls, she watches, she smiles at old memories. But still, she says nothing. Why? Because pride is louder than pain. And ego hates humility. Admitting she misses you means acknowledging that she misjudged you. It means facing the fact that the one who stayed calm was also the one she underestimated. It is not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them. Epictetus. She tells herself a story. He probably doesn't care. He's better off without me. I'm not going to be the first to reach out. And behind those thoughts is the truth she won't say aloud. I miss him, but if I admit that, I lose control. You see, for many, emotions don't move them. Status does. And reaching out feels like surrender, like defeat. But here's what a Stoic man knows. You don't need the confession. You've already got the clarity. Because a woman who can't say she misses you will still show it through her silence, her tension, her patterns. And you don't chase the admission, you observe the behavior, because real power is knowing you're missed and not needing to hear it to believe it. Ever sensed you were missed, but her pride kept her silent? Tell your Stoic story below. Like this if you've learned that unspoken feelings are often the loudest. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, where we teach you to read between the lines and live beyond the games. Stoic Bloom, because when you stop needing her words, you start hearing the truth. Part 20. You become the one that got away. You didn't chase, you didn't beg, you didn't fold under silence. You rebuilt, you refocused, you remembered your worth. And now, in her quiet reflections, in her late night overthinking, in the stillness of everything she thought she controlled, you remain, not as the man she left, but as the man she couldn't replace. You became the one that got away, not because you ran, but because you rose. A man should be upright, not be kept upright. Marcus Aurelius. You didn't disappear to prove anything. You grew because you had nothing left to lose, except yourself. And you chose yourself. Now, even if she never says it out loud, she carries the awareness that she touched something rare and let it go. You are no longer a memory she can control. You are a standard she can no longer reach. If this message resonated with you, if your silence has been misunderstood, if your presence has been undervalued, then know this: you're not alone. You're awakening. At Stoic Bloom, we're not building men who chase. We're cultivating men who lead themselves. We teach strength in restraint, power in patience, and clarity through chaos. We don't offer tricks to win someone back. We offer truths to win yourself back. If you're tired of being emotionally manipulated, if you're ready to transform confusion into conviction and heartbreak into honor, then this is your home. Like this, if you're done seeking closure from others and ready to claim it from within, share your story. Your growth may be someone else's rescue. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom and walk with us through the stillness, through the storm, into a version of yourself no one can ever walk away from again. Stoic Bloom, because when she finally looks back, what she'll see is a man she'll never find again. She tells herself a story. He probably doesn't care. He's better off without me. I'm not going to be the first to reach out. And behind those thoughts is the truth she won't say aloud. I miss him, but if I admit that, I lose control. You see, for many, emotions don't move them, status does, and reaching out feels like surrender, like defeat. But here's what a Stoic man knows. You don't need the confession. You've already got the clarity, because a woman who can't say she misses you will still show it, through her silence, her tension, her patterns. And you don't chase the admission, you observe the behavior, because real power is knowing you're missed and not needing to hear it to believe it. Ever sensed you were missed, but her pride kept her silent? Tell your Stoic story below. Like this if you've learned that unspoken feelings are often the loudest. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, where we teach you to read between the lines and live beyond the games. Stoic Bloom, because when you stop needing her words, you start hearing the truth. Part 20. You become the one that got away. You didn't chase, you didn't beg, you didn't fold under silence. You rebuilt, you refocused, you remembered your worth. And now, in her quiet reflections, in her late-night overthinking, in the stillness of everything she thought she controlled, you remain. Not as the man she left, but as the man she couldn't replace. You became the one that got away, not because you ran, but because you rose. A man should be upright, not be kept upright. Marcus Aurelius, you didn't disappear to prove anything. You grew because you had nothing left to lose, except yourself. And you chose yourself. Now, even if she never says it out loud, she carries the awareness that she touched something rare and let it go. You are no longer a memory she can control. You are a standard she can no longer reach. If this message resonated with you, if your silence has been misunderstood, if your presence has been undervalued, then know this: you're not alone. You're awakening. At Stoic Bloom, we're not building men who chase. We're cultivating men who lead themselves. We teach strength in restraint, power in patience, and clarity through chaos. We don't offer tricks to win someone back. We offer truths to win yourself back. If you're tired of being emotionally manipulated, if you're ready to transform confusion into conviction and heartbreak into honor, then this is your home. Like this, if you're done seeking closure from others and ready to claim it from within, share your story. Your growth may be someone else's rescue. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom and walk with us through the stillness, through the storm, into a version of yourself no one can ever walk away from again. Stoic Bloom, because when she finally looks back, what she'll see is a man she'll never find again.